Fans of Baylor football know about some of the team's most important leaders. Art Briles and Bryce Petty come to mind, but there is one who flies under the radar.
In tonight's Behind the Green and Gold, Brian Kaufman introduces us to a 26-year-old walk-on whose journey to joining the Bears is anything but ordinary.
The last time I really stopped and let it all hit me was probably when I did the bear walk at homecoming. The long road, a really long road to get here, it was here.
There's a saying in the world of football: pain is temporary, pride is forever. Nelson Ehirim has experienced both.
I know my breaking point. I know that I don't have a breaking point.
As a senior, Nelson was the best player at Baylor High School outside of Austin. He was recruited by a number of colleges, but there was one that stood out: the University of Houston, where Nelson wanted nothing more than to play for Art Briles.
Have you ever met him before? Coach Briles is the man. He was the first coach that I met that really made you feel like you could be special.
But it appeared it wasn't meant to be. Nelson tore his MCL during his senior season. Gone were his dreams of being a Cougar. He ended up at Midwestern State. He redshirted, then played 2 years. Then his son was born. He graduated early from MSU and figured his football career was done. It was at that point that he traded in his helmet and pads for a different uniform. Nelson joined the U.S. Army, and he thrived. He was commissioned as an officer by the time he was 22, a feat almost unheard of at that age.
That was probably the greatest accomplishment I think I've achieved in life so far, just because I know what it means, and I know the responsibility that came along with it.
He spent time with some of the best leaders our nation has to offer. He remains active in the reserve to this day. In fact, he'll soon be promoted to captain. But there was one leader who he still longed to work with.
Some of the other platoon leaders are talking to me, and we're talking about football and talking about how I used to play, and they're like, "Hey man, you ever thought about going back?" And I'm like, "No, not really, man. I don't think I'd have an eligibility even if I could."
But the NCAA assured Nelson he had 2 years of eligibility left. After a few phone calls, Nelson came to Waco and walked on with the Bears.
And I walked up to him, I said, "Hey coach, do you remember me?" And he gave me this look, and he was like, "Yeah, a little bit." And I was like, "It's all right, coach. It's been a long time."
We have a great amount of respect for him and who he is as a person. And he's been a valuable player to our team. He helps us on the scout teams tremendously every day with the effort that he gives.
Even though it's 6 years later, it's still, a dream that, I'm getting to live.
Pain is temporary. Pride is forever. Nelson Ehirim has experienced both. And as his time with the Bears winds down, he's proved himself a leader rarely seen in college football.
I'm terribly afraid of being complacent, so I really just try to keep pushing, keep reaching the next objective, keep getting the next accomplishment, just try to keep going forward.
Thanks to Brian Kaufman for that great story. Late in Baylor's homecoming win over Kansas, Nelson got into the game on kickoff coverage. The kick returner immediately stepped out of bounds, and Nelson says it's because he knew that Nelson was coming. He called the experience amazing. Quite an amazing young man right there, too.